Hey, got a question for you. Have you ever heard the phrase or even said the phrase, I fell out of love? Now, many people debate whether or not this is even possible. Some people say, I can't fall out of love because I never fell into love, that love must be intentional. Listen, I don't want to argue that today. I don't want to get into semantics. I do want to get into some substance about this issue, though, because here's the truth of the matter. Sometimes the love leaves. I want to talk about why that happens and what you can do to get it back. Stay tuned. Listen, one of the truths that I have learned in over 2 decades of marriage is simply this: that love for each other should be constant and consistent, but being in love with each other sometimes has ebbs and flows. I'm not talking about the amount of love couples have for each other, but I am talking about this feeling of romantic love. Now, let me unpack and clarify what I mean. So before the comment gangsters start doing drive-bys in the comment section, listen to what I'm about to say first, please. So there are there are a number of Greek words actually that exist regarding love. There are 2 that I'm going to lift up to you, and I'm using Greek words because the New Testament is written in Greek. And so I'm going to lift up 2 that I think are very important, okay? So one is this idea of agape, which is an unconquerable benevolence. It is God's love. It is a commitment to seek the highest good for other people, regardless of what they do to you. All right. That's the love that God has for us. That's the love we should have for our neighbor. That's the love we should even have for our enemy. That love is not a feeling. It has nothing to do with feelings. That love is a decision that I make regarding how I'm going to treat you, regardless of how I feel. So yes, we need to have agape for everyone, including our spouse. But what I need some of y'all to understand is that in the context of other relationships, God gives permission for there to be other types of love in addition to agape. So some of you heard this term phileo, which speaks to brotherly love, right? So should I have agape for my friends? Yes. But should I have brotherly love for my friends? Yes. Is it okay to have brotherly love for my friends and not brotherly love for my enemies? Absolutely. I need to have agape for everyone, not phileo for everybody. Well, there's this word eros, which deals with this romantic love. It's not just relegated to lust and physical intimacy. It's like emotional closeness. And so when it comes to a husband and a wife, yes, agape needs to be the foundation of that relationship, but you also need some eros. What you see in the Song of Solomon is eros. And here's what I'm telling you. Agape is consistent, but if you don't nurture that eros will get up and leave you. Now take that to the bank and cash it. Yes, agape can be consistent, but those in love feelings, that can be ebbs and flows. And it is connected to what Dr. William Harley calls your love bank being filled. So I am telling you that people can feel like I fell out of love. They may not have fallen out of agape. You know, there are people that are no longer together. They still love their ex. They're just not in love with them. They want the best God has for their ex. They still have agape for their ex. That eros is gone. And so when you want to make your relationship work, you got to know the work you need to do to keep that eros. And that means that love bank has to be full. When a person's relational needs are met, it contributes to the in-love romantic feeling we call eros. That eros, romantic love, is a consequence of relational needs being met. Simple, period, point blank. So this means, this is important, this means that the meeting of relational needs produces the feelings of romantic love. So whenever the romantic love gets up and leaves, it's because some relational needs have not been met. So whenever someone says they're falling out of love or have fallen out of love, you can trace it back to 3 specific areas. Here it is. Number 1, there hasn't been a discovery or rediscovery of their spouse's needs. Right? See, this is important. Many people in relationships give their partner what they personally need without discovering or rediscovering what their spouse actually needs. And so this can happen the duration of a relationship, meaning that there can be people in a relationship who never quite meet their partner's relational needs. And this can happen when life changes the person you're in relationship with, and therefore their needs change. So there are times where we got to discover the need. Then there are other times we got to rediscover the need, because if I don't rediscover the need, I'll be giving my spouse what they used to need and not what they need now. So there hasn't been a discovery or rediscovery of a need. Secondly, if the love is left, then there hasn't been a willingness to learn how to meet the need. So it's one thing to know what the need is, to discover it or to rediscover it. It's another thing to learn what I need to learn to actually meet the need. See, William Harley says couples must discover, learn to meet, and then meet the essential relational needs of their spouse. Now, I'm going to tell you something, because I do a lot of work in the marketplace. I'm called to the marketplace. I'm raising up missionaries in the marketplace. I teach people how to use their coaching ability, or how to learn and release a coaching skill and raise their speaking skill and use knowledgepreneurship to infiltrate and to impact and to influence the marketplace. We call it the marketplace mandate. And here's something that I learned. I've seen people work way harder at developing a skill to create resources than they will to have a great relationship. Sit on that one for a minute. I see people, I want you to catch this. See, in business, if there's a gap between a skill you need and a skill you have, what do people do? They fill that gap. The same thing should happen in relationships. If there's a gap between the skill I need and the skill I have, I need to do the work to develop the skill so I can meet that need. However, we don't work in relationships the way we work at work, which is why many relationships don't work. So I gotta discover or rediscover the need. I've gotta have a willingness to learn how to meet that need. And then number 3, I have to have a willingness to actually meet it. I can know what I need to do. I can know how I need to do it, and still not do it. See, just because a person knows doesn't mean that they automatically do. Why? Because your actions are very often tied to your attitude, your emotions tied to your motivators. So if a person is actually demotivated, then their attitude will inhibit them from actually executing on what they know to do. It's like, you should do that, but you mad. Like they don't deserve it, so I'm not gonna do it. You know what this means? It means you're managing a relationship based on who they are, not who you committed to be. Now, notice I keep using a few words strategically, partner, spouse, and I'm using those words interchangeably because I think once you've made a marital covenant, I think that relationship is different and distinct from relationships where covenant doesn't exist. Because when you make a marital covenant, when you say vows, you are promising God and promising a partner. Listen to me. You're promising God and you're promising your spouse that I will commit to meet relational needs for you that God says I can only meet. You're promising that. And so I think in the context of marriage, there is this biblical expectation that we discover our spouse's needs, that we learn the skills to meet those needs, and then we commit to meet those needs even when we feel uninspired, when we feel like they are undeserving, and when we feel like we are demotivated. Now, inevitably, there are always individuals who ask questions like, well, what about when you do everything and they still don't do right? What about, I did all of that and they still didn't do right? Listen, what I am pushing you toward is obedience, because that's the only thing you can control. That's your obedience. You cannot control their outcome. And if a relationship doesn't work, what you want to be able to say to God is that I did everything you instructed me to do. And God then will hold you accountable for the only one you have control over, and that is yourself. We don't have to fall out of love. We can fan the flames of romantic love when we learn to discover, learn to meet, and commit to meet essential relational needs. Take care.